Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching Welcome to Plathville. I'm going to watch this show, and I'm going to react to it as I watch. Let's watch.
And I don't even know if you two know what that has put her through and put me through. And I'm not going to let that happen again. I have some of the biggest regrets of my life were listening to you two tell Olivia things about her.
So Olivia and Ethan have been referring to this for a while now, years really in their time, about how the parents, particularly the mom, have said things to Olivia that have been terrible. And that at the time, Ethan did not stand up for Olivia, and Olivia is very sad about that. Now, I don't know if we saw that scene, because the scene that I saw, it didn't seem like incredibly harsh words were said to Olivia. So I'm only assuming that there must have been many conversations, or at least one, outside of what we saw on the camera, which makes sense. They don't record every conversation that they have, that would explain why Olivia is so hurt and so afraid, really. I mean, she is genuinely afraid of the parents. And Ethan is on board with that perspective. So maybe they'll talk about what was said. But in the conversation that they keep showing us in terms of the flashback is a scene that they did film last season in which they're in the parking lot of the old farm. And the parents were saying, they were having a conversation where Ethan and Olivia were wanting to bring Isaac over to their house, because they really wanted Isaac, the younger kid who was 13 at the time, to be a drummer in their band. And the mom was saying, well, we're open to going down a road like that, but we're going to say no at this point. But we're open to maybe if you and I, me as the mother and Olivia as my daughter-in-law, if we improve our relationship and I get some trust, then maybe we can do that down the road for sure. Now, who knows? Maybe the mom was just saying that, didn't really mean it. Maybe Olivia actually totally picks up on what's being said in that moment. There's really no way for me to tell as an outsider, very briefly looking in on that conversation. But then Olivia, so it seemed as though the mom was saying, not now, but maybe later, and I'd love for us to improve our relationship. Olivia in that moment seemed to say, well, I don't really care. I really need Isaac to come to the house. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but that was the vibe that Olivia was giving off of, just like, okay, I hear you, and I really do think that Isaac needs to come to our house and practice in this band. And it didn't really seem like a practical need. It wasn't like they needed Isaac to be in his band for some gig that they had coming up or something. It seemed as though Olivia was really picking on something, was really trying to kind of even start a fight with the mom. Now, again, I'm only seeing what the show is showing us, and I also don't know all the emotional undertones that everyone is picking up on. And then at a certain point, the dad said something like, well, is it possible that something of character is happening right now? And I remember in the moment going, what is he talking about? And then someone asked the dad, what do you mean by character? And he's like, well, essentially what he was saying is it possible that, Olivia, there's something wrong with your character? And that could be a pretty hurtful statement, right? In the midst of a conflict, someone's like, have you ever thought that there's something wrong with you, that there's something wrong with your character? Now, again, I don't know if that was what the dad was saying. He seems nicer than that, but that is what he was saying. At least those are the words he was using. And I think that's what he was actually trying to communicate. And that could be pretty hurtful, right? But on the scale of family conflicts that I've observed, that conversation anyway, seemed like a massive conflict. And then we saw as the season progressed, the distance between Mom and Olivia just got broader, bigger and bigger. And then at some point in between the seasons, they completely had a falling out. So it just makes me wonder, if I were to treat this family and I had time to investigate, would I see Olivia's point and be like, whoa, yeah, the parents have been really out of line? Or would I see things from the parents' point of view and say like, oh yeah, I think Olivia is being a little unfair here? Or would I see some third option or something in between? I don't know. But I'm always looking for that because I don't know. I can't help but to try to land somewhere as a therapist. I'm always looking for those data to figure out, okay, what's going on here? Is it somewhere in the middle? Because as a family therapist, I would do that. What they would often say is, therapist, you're not supposed to take sides, which is absolutely true. But that doesn't mean I just don't observe. I absolutely do observe. I'm like, okay, that seems a little unfair, and I think that person seems more reasonable in this moment anyway. And so I'm always trying to gauge that. Now, I don't say it in session usually. I mean, I guess sometimes I do, but I don't say something like, you're being unfair and you're reasonable, especially if I don't have a good relationship with the people. Now, I will sometimes, after I have a good enough relationship with the family or the individual, I will say, you know what, you're being unfair. I've talked about how some clients are abusive. I will be treating a family, and if I have a good enough rapport with them and I'm observing enough behavior from someone that constitutes the label of abusive, I'll just point at them and say, I just want to say what you're doing right now and what you're describing is abusive. You're making other people walk on eggshells around you. You're purposely punishing them emotionally and intimidating them because you want to control them. I get why you're doing it, because you're afraid of being accused of something, you're afraid of losing a fight, you're afraid of losing relationships with people, but the thing you resort to is not okay, and it is abusive, and you have to stop. And what this does is all the victims of the abuse are validated by me saying this, and the abuser gets a chance to really look at themselves in a safe relationship with me, because this is perhaps months, if not years, into our relationship together, in which I've proven that I care and that I understand them. It gives them a chance to really look at themselves and really figure out, yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. And then we spend maybe months, if not years, helping them swallow that pill, that either they learned that from their parents, that's usually the case, or it's a severe reaction to emotional loss or shame or something. And we learn how to not engage in the intimidating, controlling behavior and engage in some other behavior that is much more functional. But anyway, I'm wondering if we'll get more data here. I hope we do, honestly, because I think this is the last episode. So I think we're running out of time for data.
And I didn't say anything. And I wish to God that I had. I didn't say anything because I had respect for you. You two have made it very clear that you do not accept Olivia. You both know if you can't accept her, then you don't get me either. That's where I'm drawing the line. That's where the line is going to stay until something happens.
Okay, so Ethan is saying his piece. I'm sure the parents are pretty hurt by that. Is it justified? Maybe. I don't know. But the parents haven't said anything, so hopefully they will.
I don't know what you guys really feel. I don't know if you really are sad, if you are happy.
Well, I mean, you don't want to debate. So, I mean, I hear you, and I know that you've been through a lot. I know that you've both been through a lot.
Yeah, thanks to you.
So, as a family therapist, all I see here is pain and fear. Let's imagine a world in which we could sit everyone down, take maybe a whole weekend, and really get to the bottom of things. And the mom was to say, I'm sorry. And here's why I did those things, but I didn't do it right, and I'm really sorry. And I understand you, and then we'd help Olivia and Ethan really explain to the mom where they're coming from. And then the mom could really apologize and say, I am terrified, and I am so sorry, and I feel so ashamed of myself as a mother because of that. And I just want you to know that. Imagine if they weren't defended and they weren't formal in this conversation, that their gooey inside emotions were out there, right? Imagine a place where that would happen, where Olivia could come to the table and say, I'm terrified of you. The things that you do to me scare me to death. I feel trapped by you. I feel intimidated by you. And the mom could say, now I understand that that's the way I come across. I didn't know that's how I came across. Here's why I do that. It's not an excuse, but here's why I do that, because I'm trying my hardest to do right by my kids, given my belief system, or whatever, some kind of understanding. Because I don't see anything wrong with the parents. I don't see anything wrong with Ethan and Olivia. So why can't they get along? It's because of emotional log jams where they don't really express everything that's happening. And the other person, if they do express everything that's happening, the other person doesn't reciprocate and take care of each other. I've been saying this from the beginning, that with the mom and Olivia, if I could sit the two of them down, because they're the main players here, if I could sit the two of them down and really have like 5 hours of true conversation where I would help them to understand each other, even if they disagree, which they likely will, I'm almost positive I could fix this situation. And it breaks my heart to see this, because it's not just Olivia and the mom, but now it's Ethan and the parents, Ethan and all the other kids and Ethan. So it's just a really unfortunate situation. I don't know. Maybe it's totally hopeless, but it doesn't look like it to me.
But it's hard to take words like that from someone that you really love. I just felt misunderstood. I've always felt like Olivia never gave me a chance. I felt like anything that I've done since they've been married and before, ever since I've known Olivia, anything that I've done has been twisted to mean something else.
So, as a systems thinker, this is a possible scenario, possible hypothesis, is that before Mom and Kim and Olivia ever met, they both had certain assumptions or certain paradigms or certain defenses, certain traumas. And when they came together in the family system, a number of things happened where they just triggered each other, and then now they're in this place. And they're both to blame or they're both not to blame. But it created this vicious cycle. And let me propose a vicious cycle in systems circular causality, nonlinear causality. Let me explain this. So when we think about causality, like if I were to take this mouse and throw it at the camera, we would have this linear causality where the camera was broken because I threw a mouse at it. Okay. So we're pretty good at evaluating linear causality. If we have global warming, it's because we're putting CO2 in the atmosphere. That's a linear causality situation. Okay. We have a much harder time with nonlinear causality or circular causality, things that seem to don't have a beginning and don't have an end. And let me describe. So again, both Olivia and Kim come to the table with their own set of defenses and their own personalities. And Kim comes across, at least, as being kind of blank in a way. The dad is way more emotive and uses his face to really draw people in and to make people feel comfortable. The mom doesn't seem to do that, at least what we've seen on the show. She has a very kind of resting judgmental face, I might call it. Resting disapproval face. Now, I'm guessing she doesn't know that. Most people who have resting something face don't know they have resting something face. As a therapist myself, honestly, in the beginning of my career, we will videotape ourselves and watch it and see how we're coming across. And it's very cringeworthy to watch myself, doing therapy and going, that's what I look like as a therapist? Because I didn't realize how angry I looked when I said that. When I'm really intensely listening to a client, I don't know. From the outside, it looked like I was looking angry. And so I set out to change that. How do we know how we look when we're listening to someone? We don't have mirrors. We don't know. I mean, we don't usually look at a mirror when we're talking to someone. And so I had to actually change the way that I came across to people. I had to actually get into a different habit of facial expressions because I didn't want to come across like I was angry at people all the time, because I wasn't angry. Anyway, so it's possible that the mom does not have judgment in her heart, does not have that much anger in her heart, but she comes across that way because that's what her face just naturally relaxes to or something. Okay, so let's say that the mom has this way of coming across. Olivia has a sensitivity to intimidation, probably from her past. She seems to have something along those lines. She seems very easily triggered by the mom. Again, I don't know the full history, obviously. But let's just go with this hypothesis. Let's say that Olivia has sensitivity to intimidating presences, intimidating personalities. The mom definitely comes across as intimidating based on her demeanor, right? And they come together, and Olivia is a little off-put and a little unsure of what's happening. She's trying to please the mom. And the mom is like, oh, okay, that's nice, but she doesn't register it and she doesn't communicate it the way the dad does. And then Olivia is like, okay, I think the mom doesn't like me. So I'm terrified of the mom, so I'm going to avoid the mom. And then the mom is like, huh. From the mom's perspective, the mom's like, I feel like Olivia's avoiding me. That hurts my feelings. I'm guessing she just doesn't like me because, I don't know, she just doesn't like me. That hurts. Oh, well, I don't know what to do about that, except just be myself. And then they continue to do that, just on that one dimension of resting judgment face and sensitivity to intimidation. Slowly over time, we could see how that would build and make things worse and make things more contentious. So this is nonlinear causality in that we don't have a direction. We don't say it's the mom's fault for having resting judgmental face. We don't say it's Olivia's fault for being a little bit sensitive to intimidating personalities. We say it's nonlinear causality or circular causality because they both affect each other. We don't start from one person or the other. It just happens at the same time and creates the road that they go down together where they're at right now. And there could be other circular causalities involved as well, like maybe the mom's preference for really keeping control of the kids, and Olivia has sensitivity to that or something. So there's probably hundreds of other potential factors that we could actually add to the hypothesis of how the two of them came together in a way and went down a road, cascading, vicious cycling to the point where they are right now. So again, it just breaks my heart to think that if someone could have intervened there or someone could intervene here, they could have reversed course. That's what therapy provides.
You said have a nice life living in bondage. Those are your exact words. So
Did I say that?
I don't know.
oftentimes,
Wow. So this was a hypothesis I had, was that the parents have been real nasty and we did not see it because obviously they did it away from the camera. Let's rewind that and listen back to that.
I did tell you this once before, and you said have a nice life living in bondage. Those are your exact words.
Did
So
I say that?
I don't know.
oftentimes, when people say bad, nasty things,
So the way that the dad responded, on one hand, he's like, did I say that? On the other hand, I would never say anything like that. If someone accused me of having said that, I'd be like, what? What do you think I said to you? Oh my goodness. No, I did not say that. Or if I did, I'm terribly sorry. That's awful. That's not what the dad is saying. He's just like, did I say that? I don't remember. It sounds like the dad is saying, well, I don't remember saying that, but yeah, maybe I could have said something similar to that. But what does that mean? It sounds like a religious jargon right there. Have fun living in bondage. I'm guessing it means like bondage to the world, trapped by sin, I'm guessing is what that is referring to. And yeah, that's a pretty awful thing, particularly to say to someone like Ethan who would really resonate with a statement like that, particularly from your dad, right? So that's interesting. I wonder if a lot of you have been yelling at the screen going, Kirk, you don't understand. Stuff happens at the end of the season that reveals the true colors of these parents that I just hadn't been exposed to yet. So that's interesting. That's pretty illuminating right there.
it's not the person that said it that remembers it, it's the person they were said to.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if I hurt you, I'm sorry.
well, it's very nice of you to say that.
Yikes. That's interesting. So I have to say, up until this point, I was like, boy, the dad seems like a real nice, jovial fella. But that was, again, I'm not entirely sure, but there's a version of this reality, if I'm reading it right, which I don't know, in which the dad is saying to himself, yeah, I could have said something like that. That sounds like something I might have said. And then, listen, the way he just said that, well, son, if I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. That's such a cold way of responding. If someone accused me of saying something on that level, something that I would, might say to someone, I would be so mortified and so sorry. I would be of two minds. On one hand, I'd be like, no, I never said that. On the other hand, I'd be like, well, that's what they heard me say, and so I need to apologize to that. I would just be beside myself thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that I said those things, or I'm so sorry that you interpret it, or I'm so sorry I said that and it makes sense you interpreted it that way. And I'm just so sorry, so it's interesting that Dad isn't having that response. I don't know what that means precisely, but it's definitely illuminating something that I don't think they were showing us before.
There's a misinterpretation from what I said at some point in the past when we actually were talking. The premise is, if you yield yourself to unforgiveness, you are kind of a servant to unforgiveness.
Is that what you mean by,
That's what I meant. That's what I meant by bondage. It can happen to anybody.
Okay, so that might sound a little weird, but I have talked with people who think like that, so I think that makes a little bit more sense. The dad is saying that I'm guessing the dad was like, hey, you have to forgive your mom. And to not forgive is to not be a good Christian. Christianity, presumably for many people, is based on forgiveness and love. And to not love and to not have forgiveness and to harbor anger for other people, particularly your own mother, is to live in bondage of your own lack of forgiveness. You're living in bondage of your anger and your resentment, and you need to break free of that bondage. There's actually a lot of health in that wisdom in Christianity and in other religions, but I don't think it really applies here because the ongoing resentment and the need for apology is really what's at play. Just telling Ethan, look, you just have to get rid of your feelings, I'm sure didn't go over well.
Can I say goodbye to my siblings?
Do you want them to come out or do you want to come in?
Yeah, can Olivia say goodbye to them too?
Yeah.
She's in the car, so I'll take the kids over there.
Can she not come up here?
With all due respect, she doesn't want to
With
see
all
either
due
of
respect, I have a really hard time with you coming over here and saying everything you just said and not even wanting to hear our side of the story.
So this is good. I'm glad the mom is breaking through the formality of this weird conversation. So let's see what the mom says. This is good.
So have Olivia come up here to say goodbye, or we can just have them come. We'll all just be right here.
We
No,
won't say a
absolutely not.
word. Okay.
Absolutely not.
I thought it was going to be, and I thought the mom was going to break down and cry or show some vulnerability or say, son, you're killing me here. I'm so sorry. Is there any way that I can help to, is there any way I can apologize for what I did? I'm just so sorry. I don't know what happened here. That's what I thought she was going to say, or at least I guess I was hoping. Instead, they're just clamping down on the control of just like, nope, you're not going to bring the kids to Olivia. Because why? Because we resent Olivia? Nope, we're going to stand here and we're going to control the whole situation. And if Olivia wants to see the kids, then Olivia's going to have to come here and stand next to me. Yeesh.
Okay with them being with the children, but it has to start with all of us being together. It has to start. I can't send our children off to go be with somebody that's talking bad about me and has such strong resentment and bitterness towards me.
So there's some wisdom to that, of course. As a parent, you don't want to send especially your very young kids, let's say you had a cousin or an aunt or an uncle who just despised you. And that uncle said, hey, I'd love to have the kids over for dinner and you need to stay home. Wouldn't you be a little worried to be like, do I really want that uncle influencing these kids? I don't think that's a good idea. So the mom is rational. But in this situation, is it helpful to think that way? Because to come across to everyone like you're so controlling and so denying to everyone, is that really the best course of action? It seems spiteful on a certain level. And I'm sure it's coming across that way to Ethan at this point.
Hey guys, can I say goodbye to you? Yeah. And Olivia's in the car if you guys would like to say goodbye to her. It's good to see you. Yeah. Hey Cassia. Hey Lydia. I can't let you guys come
This
to
is
the
my
car.
property. I can walk on my property if I want
Mommy,
to.
you're just making
Mom,
things worse.
Look at
You are
me.
just making
Look at
things
me.
worse.
That is my wife.
Yeesh. Okay, so was that Isaac saying, Mom, you're just making things worse? Yeah, I mean, again, I get the policy that the mom has, but in this situation, what's going on here? Like, you have to think big picture. Okay, they're just going over to the car to say goodbye. What's the harm? So whenever I see scenes like this, and this looks like it's going to get ugly, what's happening for people typically is they're flooded with emotions, or they're completely some trauma is being triggered usually for people. I don't know that, but I would suspect that that's what's happening for the mom in this moment. I don't know what trauma would be triggered. Something about control, something about being rejected, something about being abandoned. I wonder if that's another thought. I can't believe it took me this long to figure this one out. Is that she might have a lot of abandonment issues, the mom. A lot of people do, given the way that we're raised sometimes. And she might, out of an effort to deny that abandonment fear, is to keep everyone as close as possible. And if anyone even slightly moves away from her, then that is perceived as a massive abandonment. It hurts her a lot, and she gets very angry and she pushes people away. So that's another possibility. It's actually a pretty strong possibility. It's a pretty common condition that people have. So in this moment, it's possible that the mom is having all those abandonment traumas triggered right now, that Ethan and Olivia are disapproving, and they're gonna take all my children away from me, emotionally speaking. And I am not gonna have that. It's not gonna happen this time. I've worked too hard for that abandonment not to happen. I wonder.
My siblings.
Why can't we just get together? I won't say a word. We can just...
What's the
Just
big
gonna
deal?
walk over there, smile at her,
What's the
say
big deal?
hi.
Because you don't understand the things you've said, how they've made her feel.
The things she has said have hurt me too. So I'm willing to tolerate her presence if she can tolerate mine.
No, I told you how it's going to be.
So again, I have been in sessions way worse than this. Imagine this happening with Olivia in the room as well, in my office. This happens all the time. The anger, the resentment, there is so much of that going on in families. And it's okay. It's okay to have that resentment. It's okay to have that hurt. It's okay to have that anger. What do we do with it? What do we want to do with it? I would like to think that Olivia and Kim would like to actually move forward with the relationship and improve it. And there's a way forward to do that. This is not the way. It's just going to cause more problems. So it's hard to watch.
I would like me and Olivia say goodbye to the sibling.
And then, of course, poor Lydia is carrying the weight of this entire family. As I've been saying from the beginning, the person I worry about the most on the show is Lydia. She's the person who is bearing, and it brings a tear to my eye just thinking about it, she's the one who carries all of the weight of this family, all the emotional weight. If anyone's going to break under that pressure, it's going to be Lydia. I don't know that, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised.
You're just making things worse.
If it's going to be a big deal over Olivia saying goodbye to the siblings with me, then I guess we'll probably see them all when they're 18. But I feel like that's your call.
It's his call.
You're the neck that turns his head. And we all know that's how it's always been.
Wow, Ethan with the truth telling. That's interesting. I mean, Ethan is like really bringing it in this moment. I mean, it brings chills to my spine to see his resolve in this moment, how good he is under pressure. I did not think that Ethan had this in him. I mean, this would be a hard situation to deal with, but now I'm not saying he's right, and I'm not saying he is doing the wonderful thing here, but I'm surprised at how resolute he is and how well-spoken he is under pressure. It's pretty interesting. But he says, we all know you're the one that turns his head. So this is up to you. If you allow it, Dad will allow it. If you don't allow it, Dad won't allow it. That's interesting.
Say something positive about each other. Say, like, make
said
up.
Ethan, I love you. In spite of all the vitriol that is coming our way,
Interesting that Isaac is becoming the go-between, the jovial go-between in this family. Lydia is the one that carries all the weight and is the parentified one. And Isaac is the, come on, everyone, let's just get along. We can all get along. Isaac is a good candidate for a therapist one day, honestly.
Well, you can just say you love him. You don't have to say
It is very nice of you to say that you love me, but behind my back, when you talk about my wife to other people, it's not going to fly with me. So, it's unfortunate, I guess, that Olivia won't be seeing you guys.
Oh, let's go say hi to Olivia.
Dad?
Yikes. Why, Dad? Why, parents? Why does this fight have to happen this way? Why does it have to get violent? I mean, Ethan has been extremely clear and extremely straightforward. No, under no uncertain terms are you going to go over to that car with Olivia. This is not going to happen. And then the dad's just like, let's just do it. Like, what's going on here, people? I mean, how did we get here? How did this happen? It's just so tragic to see the dad and Ethan in what looks like the beginning of a physical fight. It's just so tragic. I mean, this is how lifelong cutoff and pain happens, this stuff. It's just so sad to see.
What? You are not going to walk over to my wife.
Guys,
you
look.
understand?
Look, just look.
Okay. No problem.
All right. So thank the universe that didn't escalate and the dad backed down. Okay. Oh, that was scary.
I love you. I'll see you later. Bye.
This moment.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Lydia.
I love you.
I love you too. I'll see you all later.
My goodness. So my wife watched this show before I did. My wife had watched the whole thing, and I didn't watch it with her. And when I would be making videos for 90 days, she'd be watching Welcome to Plathville. And she would tell me on our walks with the dogs, she would say, a lot of people have been asking you to talk about this show. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. It's interesting to get into another show. And she says, yeah, but you got to wait to the end because like she's saying, all I did was cry and cry and cry. And I'm quite positive she was crying in this moment. And for the sake of this reaction video, I'm not going to completely let loose with my tears, but I'm positive if I was sitting there on the couch with her slumped over, I would have been crying equally. We tend to cry in the same moments. When I'm crying, I will kind of glance over, like, oh, she's crying too. Okay, we're on the same page. It's like having a similar sense of humor or something, a similar sense of tears. But yeah, I mean, the pain that you feel for Lydia, just the tragedy. Out of everyone in this family, honestly, I feel like I can identify most with Lydia. I can feel her pain. I can feel her just going, this doesn't need to happen. I don't understand why this is happening. Why are the people that I love fighting with each other? And the helplessness that she feels and the sadness. You don't sense judgment in Lydia. You don't sense anger in her. She's just sad for everyone. I think there's a lot of wisdom in Lydia. I think if Lydia had control of everyone, if she could tell everyone, look, here's what I want you to do. Maybe if Isaac and Lydia were to engineer meetings between everyone, it would all work out. Yeah, it's just really sad. Yeah, so now the mom's crying, finally. Why doesn't she cry in front of Ethan? Why doesn't she cry in front of Olivia? These tears, this pain, this realness, this vulnerability, I'm guessing would get the ball rolling. But they never do that. And if they did that, I'm pretty sure if they continue to go down that road of sadness and hurt and expressing that and apologies and grace to each other, that this would all right itself. Might take a number of discussions, but it just seems like such a tragedy.
It just hurts. It just hurts.
Yeah, so that pain that the mom feels points to something going on for her. Some kind of trauma, abandonment, abuse, pain that is probably ever present for her, I don't know. And that she, in all of her defenses that she built up early in life, they inadvertently push Olivia away. And this is where we're at. I'm guessing that's what's happening. I'm guessing that if I were to investigate, that would at least be one of my main hypotheses. That the mom has defenses based on her past around emotions, around vulnerability, around abandonment, around protecting people around her, and that it's all innocent, it's all good and well-meaning, but there's something about it in the way that it comes across to Olivia in particular where it really rubs her wrong. And then the way Olivia reacts to that, it rubs the mom wrong. And the way the mom reacts to that, it rubs Olivia wrong. And the whole thing just flies apart. It's just, I don't know. Maybe if I investigated, I'd be like, whoa, one of these people is completely out of hand. But it certainly seems like that's what happened. Just a little bit of difference, a little bit of triggering led to more triggering and more triggering. And here we are. It's just really sad.
It just was hard to hear what he had to say.
I think in some ways, he's sacrificing the time he could spend with me right now for Olivia. And it's kind of hard for me, but I admire it.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not entirely sure I understand what she's saying, but at least the way it sounds is Lydia is saying that Ethan is sacrificing all of us, his relationship with all of us, because he wants to be with Olivia. And I admire that because that's something I want to do. I want to reject my family as well and sacrifice for a romantic, close relationship as well. Is that what she's saying? Let's rewind that. I want to hear that again because I'm really interested in how Lydia works here.
He's sacrificing the time he could spend with me right now for Olivia. And it's kind of hard for me, but I admire it.
I mean, it kind of sounds that way, right? It kind of sounds like she wishes she could be Ethan, doesn't it?
I'm baffled, to be honest. I know there's things that they don't like about us, but I mean, it's crazy to me how it's gotten to this point.
Let's go back in.
I think it'll take a miracle to bring the two sides together. I really do. I don't see any way anything short of that would do it.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.